スコルポノックのハイテク技術によって一段とパワーアップし、サウンドブラスターとして今ここに蘇ったのである。待たせたな。かわいいやつらだ。
Hello everybody, today I'm going to be making a video review of my custom LEGO Transformers Soundblaster. Soundblaster is actually Soundwave rebuilt from scratch after his battle against Blaster in the Japanese version of the G1 cartoon called the Headmasters. And so, on the right you can see my custom LEGO version of Soundblaster in his tape deck mode. On the left you can see Soundwave KO version of the G1 model. And as you can probably tell, they're relatively the same. Well, similar at least. You can see I tried my best to mimic the original design of the G1 toy as much as possible. And to some extent, I was quite successful in that regard. The tape deck door looks very similar, the coloring, even the attention to minute detail, such as these speakers on right and left. I tried to mimic them with the printed Lego pieces, tiles. So yeah, you can see it's quite good. I'm very proud of this model, and considering the fact that I've been making custom sound waves and sound blasters, well, I started when I was 12, so it was 13 years ago, 12 years ago, well, it was a long time ago. Now I think I'm more or less proficient in that regard. Well, when it comes to robot mode, the tape deck mode, from the side and from the back, looks kind of blah. Yeah, I could have made it better. I totally could, but I didn't. Why didn't I, you might ask? Well, the answer is quite simple, to be honest. I wanted to have a nice looking robot mode without any back kibble. What I mean by back kibble? Well, here you have Transformers Soundwave Fall of Cybertron version. You can see the back of the robot mode. He has some crazy kibble. Like, what is this? What is that? He doesn't need it in robot mode. But in order for him to transform into a Cybertronian vehicle, he needs this stuff. In case of my tape deck mode, well, he could have used some of that coverage here on the back, but I decided not to add it because it would have just complicated the transformation unnecessarily, and it would have also made the robot mode look so much worse than it is right now. Speaking of the robot mode, let's get to transformation. Now, the Sound Blaster is quite easy to transform. Unfortunately, it does involve some parts forming, which I will touch on a bit later when we actually get to it. But first of all, we split his legs and we move them into position so they actually become legs. We do it like so. Legs are almost done. We just angle these down, move them forward, and now some parts forming. You can see these small pieces. You want to detach them, place them on the back, like so. Do the same on the other side. Perfect. Now he can stand. Position these things like so, and you pretty much got Sound Blaster's legs all done. Now I need to angle my camera a little bit higher, a little bit up. Okay. Now the arms. Now the arms are pretty simple. Just angle them forward, and you've got yourself a pair of arms. Perfect. Take the shoulder cannon, which unfortunately cannot be stored on his tape deck mode. There is places for both of his concussion blaster and his shoulder cannon, but I couldn't find a way to put them somewhere, so they're just lying on the side, which is not a big deal. On the G1 toy, you could store them here on the back, but it was impossible for me to do this backpack on the Lego version, unfortunately. But you will see the robot mode, and I think you will actually excuse me for my inability to incorporate it into my Lego Sound Blaster. The weapons are in his hands. And now the only thing that is left to do is the head. Like so, if it doesn't break on me. Of course it does. Ladies and gentlemen, Autobots and Decepticons, behold! This is Soundblaster, perfectly transformed into his amazing, superior robot mode. Now guys, I'm really proud of this model. I'm really happy I was able to nail it down to the way I want it to look. The shoulder pad armor was one of the hardest things to figure out on this build. I tried many different versions, and in the end I stuck with this one. You can compare him to the official release, the small Soundblaster. He looks pretty similar. I mean, look at them. Quite nice. Mine even has more details on here. I mean, they could have solved it with just a little bit of paint like the Soundwave version, but anyway, that's Hasbro. Now back to the shoulder pad armor. It doesn't hinder any articulation. Even though it's so blocky and nice in terms of its proportions, in terms of its, it looks like in the cartoon. So you can move them and 90 degrees of bend. Look at this. Smooth and flawless. The same goes for the legs. Check this out. The legs can go forward all the way, can go back all the way, 90 degrees of bend, and a swivel. Well, mostly for transformation purposes, but why not utilize it in the posability section as well? Toe can pivot. And waist swivel. Of course, the head can rotate, move back and forth a little bit, and yeah, perfect. On the back, not much. As you can see, no kibble whatsoever. This was one of my main goals to achieve with this model, not to have any kibble on the back. And, well, lo and behold, he doesn't. He even has some light piping. On the back, you can see the red transparent pieces. Everything is transparent right there. So he does have some light piping, just like the masterpiece version of Soundblaster. But who would be Soundblaster without his Decepticons? And I do have one in store for you. You can open up the tape deck door, and there's gonna be Ratbat. As a cassette, you see the cassette, take it out, pull this little guy out, and well, this is obviously Ratbat. He can transform, as simple as that. On the back he has some thrusters, and he can fly around, shoot Autobots. Or you can just put him on Soundwave's wrist, on his arm, like so. And now Soundblaster has his trusty companion. I have also created a second version of Ratbat. He has much better thrusters and more details. Unfortunately, he can't fit into his chest because of the size of him, but as an alternative, you can use him as Soundblaster's Ratbat. Place him, and there you go. Much better version. But of course, this one can transform into a cassette and actually fit inside of the chest, which is nice. Anyway guys, so this is my Soundblaster. I hope you enjoyed this model of mine. I think this is my best custom Soundwave / Soundblaster I've created over the years. Obviously there weren't that many of these custom figures, but I've made a couple, maybe 5 or 6 models. I still have my old one that I actually based off of Boys with the Most Toys design. This is this big one. I've made it in 2016 or 15, I can't remember. But anyway, this is Soundblaster, my favorite and best Transformers build ever. I hope you enjoyed them. If you want to know more about how to build them, I can't promise you any instructions, unfortunately, because it would take too much time, but what you have to keep in mind is the official transformation. of G1 Soundwave / Soundblaster. When you keep it in mind, it actually makes the way to build your custom version much simpler. You can remember that I used almost the same transformation mechanic as was used here in terms of folding out the legs, how they become the size of the cassette tape player. It's the same thing. Always remember the original. So in the end, I think the only thing that remains to be said is
Soundblaster superior, Autobots inferior. Subscribe to the channel and